What up? What up? It's Garage Gym, homie. And today, I'm going over what TRT, testosterone replacement therapy, feels like. Talking facts or feelings, homie. And is it worth it? Before we get into this here, please click the subscribe button. I got content coming out all the dang time for you. So click subscribe and let's get into this, homies. God is amazing. God is good. Hope you're feeling blessed, staying in your heart. Living in your heart, staying out of your head. See, I'm in my head. Living in your heart, staying out of your head, because it's noisy up here, homie. Very noisy up here. So let's get down to business. Quit monkeying around. I don't recommend TRT to anybody, man. I don't recommend it. I'm not saying I recommend against it, but I'm not telling you to take it. I ain't a doctor, homie. That's between you and your doctor and God and your sponsor if you have one, homie. So going on TRT was not a light decision for me. I took over a year to get my natural testosterone levels back up. I prayed about it for a long time. I meditated. I made sure God was okay with me going on. I made sure my AA sponsor was okay with me going on it. And lastly, made sure my doctor was okay. So I cleared it, man. I went through all the process. It was not a light decision, man. They weren't just like, oh, you have low T. And I was like, oh, let's start TRT. There was a long process of trying to get it up naturally. No pun intended. So anyway, man, this is what I'm going to say. A lot of people might want to know, what does TRT feel like? What has it done for me? What are the benefits? When you're on it, how has my life changed? So I'm going to talk about it, man. I'm going to give it to you straight. You're always going to get straight info here, man. I ain't going to shine schlongs or BS you guys, man. I want to talk about TRT because the point of my channel, man, is transparency, honesty, trying to be my true self, and putting myself out there. So look, man, before TRT, I knew that I knew something was off about me. I got my levels checked by my doctor. He's the one who recommended, why don't we check your testosterone? Because I described my symptoms. I didn't even think I had low T. It wasn't even a thought in my mind. It's not like I started feeding myself, oh, you have low T. He suggested. I just thought I was tired all the time because of sobriety or detoxing off drugs or whatever. So I was sober for a while, a year and a half or something before I started TRT. At least a year and a half probably. And now I'm going on 10 years sober. So I've been on it for years. So this is what I'm going to say, man. My sex drive was super low. I was jerking off just to prove to myself that I could. This was back before I gave up masturbation. I haven't masturbated in years, man. Gave up porn, gave up all that. And I'll never go back, homie. Never. I feel so much better, more driven, and everything since giving that up. But that's for a different conversation. My energy was low, man. I remember studying with my sponsor. I would just be sitting there like nodding off, man. And we'd be studying together at the synagogue or whatever. And the lady we were studying with was like, do you need a cup of coffee? I was just like, man, I am tired. And I was like, my sponsor tried to help me get the testosterone back up with natural supplements, natural foods, herbs, my training routine. Everything was dialed in, man, like dialed in, and it wasn't budging. So my numbers were in the 200s, which is low, man. I was 29 years old. How old was I? 28 years old, 27, 28. I got sober at 27, so 27, 28. So there was no excuse, man, when my T was that low. But I had destroyed my endocrine system with opiates and stuff. So the doctor I saw was a family doctor, man, and he didn't, I'll be straight with you, homie. They don't know what the heck they're talking about, a lot of them. And mine did not. Mine is not. If I finally, thank God for the internet, man. I don't care what you say about technology, because I got my own ideology about technology. Oh, it's not that great. Da da da. There's great uses for everything, and there's evil uses for everything. And I've gotten some great information through YouTube and the Anabolic Doc and some other channels about the proper way to dose testosterone. But that was after being on it for a while and not being dosed properly. So they started me at like 100 milligrams or something. And so I started with like 100 milligrams like once every 2 weeks. I would go in the doctor's office, and I didn't feel much of a difference, man. Like, for me to feel anything different off testosterone, I would say it took months, man. So it wasn't even, just so you guys know, the sex drive and all that, that was like the last part of the testosterone. I had gained a bunch of weight when I went to jail. The sex drive and stuff, that was, and the gains and all that, that was the last reason I got on testosterone. I was walking around like a zombie, homie. Like, I felt like I was just going through the motions of life and not really there. Like, I was in autopilot mode, if you know what that feels like. Like, just kind of going through the motions of life, but not fully there. Not how I feel today, man. Like, right now I feel so sharp and driven and with it, and like I'm feeling like I'm in life, like I'm engaged, and I was like a zombie, man. Low T was just a zombie-like feeling is how I could describe it, man. And I wasn't depressed or unhappy or anything. Like, I know a lot of people have low T or depressed or whatever. It wasn't like that. I was so grateful. I was so close to God and so dialed in spiritually. So I wasn't there, but physically and kind of mentally, I was just like so disconnected. Just like going through the motions of life. So it took a while, man. I'd say it took months, probably 3 or 4 months till I started feeling some changes. And my testosterone was being injected. I'd be on it for a couple months or whatever at 100 milligrams. Then I think they brought me up to like 150 milligrams, and they brought me up to like 200 milligrams, and they were doing it every other week, man. So I started noticing. Now, it's very difficult for me to say how much was testosterone that I give credit for certain things that were happening in my life, and how much was my clean lifestyle, my meal prepping, my intense training, my cardio, my rest, everything. Like, I was so dialed in, even with low T. So it's hard for me to say testosterone did this for me. So like, I started to gain muscle. I started to lose the fat that I have, man. I was like, got a belly when I was in jail. When I first got sober, things started happening positive, but at the same time I was on testosterone was also the same time I was putting my heart and soul into a bodybuilding lifestyle. So it's hard for me to say testosterone did this for me. And, I think I can confidently say it helped me a lot with, I'm sure, muscle gains or my vascularity or striations in my body, my strength maybe. I mean, I was always strong, and I always had, that kind of ability to shred down, or I don't know. So it's hard to say. But as far as how I felt, man, my first experience with testosterone, the first couple years, man, was not great. I didn't start feeling, I felt amazing in certain ways, not amazing, superhuman amazing, but like back to life, more like back to life, which when you're used to being a zombie, feeling regular feels pretty amazing. But I had negative side effects, man, some very negative side effects from testosterone, which I've never found people speak about on the internet, and I've researched it. I've had what's called, like, when I would get my injections every couple of weeks, which turned out to be a horrible regimen to getting testosterone once every 2 weeks. And any doctor knows who's an expert on testosterone that testosterone works optimally in small doses more frequently. So I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So the point is this: I was having what I think is called a depersonalized experience. So when I would take testosterone, and I was going into the doctors and they were injecting it for me for years before I started injecting myself. And I would feel testosterone peaks in 24 to 48 hours, cypionate, and I would have like an out of body experience for a while. Like I felt so, like I was like outside of myself. Like I felt very weird. I'm very sensitive maybe from my past drug use or whatever to changes in my body. It felt very strange, not myself. And it would take a day or two to pass. It was like a depersonalized experience, depersonalization. I forget the term, I looked it up. It's kind of like an out-of-body experience almost. Testosterone was doing that for me. Not a comfortable, good feeling. Like I'd be sitting there at dinner, I'd talking, I'm going through the motions of life, but I was like not myself. I was outside of myself. There was a very weird feeling with it. Also, it affected my sleep. A lot of people would tell me, man, when you got good testosterone, your rest is better, your sleep is better. My experience was not that. When I started doing like 200 milligrams of testosterone the doctor had me on, I noticed that I would, like for a few days, I would have like a surge of adrenaline. It felt like I would wake up and it would feel like adrenaline through my body. Like I could feel the testosterone, felt like a surge of adrenaline through my body. And I had a lot of pretty sleepless nights, man, where it really affected me. And my heart was kind of beating and it wouldn't allow me to get good rest. And then when they raised it to 300 milligrams, so what happened was they would give me the testosterone, they would test my blood work at the lowest. They would test it the day of my shot, right before the shot. So after the 2 weeks, my family doctor was having me get my blood work every, 6 months or whatever. So it would drop, it would peak, which he didn't know because he never tested me at my peaks. Tested me the last day of the 14 days, which had dropped all the way back down because testosterone does not last that long, the half-life in your system. So he'd be like, oh, your testosterone's back to 300 or 280 or something. Oh, why don't we raise the dose? So he raised it from 200 to 300 milligrams every 2 weeks. So instead of making it more frequently and a lower dose, he just raised it more, thinking that it was just absurdity. And that's the problem with family doctors prescribing testosterone. A lot of them do not know what the heck they are doing, dude. So I had to I don't like being my own doctor because that was kind of the old Ari, like the old GGH told the doctor what I need. So now I have a doctor who is kind enough to go by. I made a recommendation, he went by it because I was confident I found my sweet spot. So I'm going to talk about it. So the point is this, when he raised it to 300, this was a couple years in to using testosterone or whatever, I could tell I was having, I remember I was at Cedar Point, the amusement park one day, and my brother, pointed out, and my veins were just bulging, homie. Like, my veins, my vascularity in my chest, he's like, oh yeah, testosterone's not doing anything for you? And for no reason, my veins were just bulging. I have to assume that was the testosterone, man. I don't know. I mean, it must have done something, man. And that's when I was doing when I was on 300, I was benching 315, which is a lot of weight for me, homie. I'm not that strong of a guy. So my strength was really high. And so I think testosterone has done a lot for me. I remember driving down the freeway once, and it was right after I got my shot, a day or two when it was peaking. And I was on 300 milligrams of cypionate, which is the most I've ever been on. I've never been on HCG or estrogen blockers or any of that, all that stuff. I've only done testosterone. People come on my channel, you look like you're, Tren Sandwich or Tren Bologna Sandwich or homie, I've never done anything but testosterone, man. I got nothing to lie about or to hide here, man. I'm always going to give it to you straight. But people are funny with the comments. Like, why would I say I'm on testosterone but lie about Trent? It's silly. So I remember driving down the freeway, man, right after taking the shot, and I caught myself going 100 miles an hour on the freeway on like a 65. And I didn't even know it because the testosterone made me so amped up. I was just like, I can't describe. I was like a maniac. I was just like, ah. And I was just like going so fast, but it didn't feel like I was going fast. Like it just did something to me where it just made me like, whatever. Like the peaks were high, the lows were lows. So I had all these sleepless nights, these depersonalized experiences where I felt outside of myself. But my workouts were so freaking good. My sex drive was back up. I felt like myself again, fired up about life. So I could feel it, man. I could feel it working. I mean, I also noticed another thing. Different brands of testosterone made me feel a different way. That's one thing I also noticed. And people could say what they want. I've had 8 years now of experience with testosterone therapy. So I know what the heck I'm talking about at this point. My doctor's office, when I would go in there and they'd give me a shot, and I would ask the nurse, because I was cool with her, what brand did you give? She would tell me. It made me feel a certain way, meaning I would get those adrenaline rush, the crazy like feeling when I'm driving, that whole kind of like amped up feeling from testosterone. And certain brands, the other brand she was giving me, the office I went to carried 2 brands, and they would just alternate based on what was in stock. Didn't do that to me. Didn't made me feel completely normal. And I was like, I want the brand that gives me the adrenaline rush, because I felt like that's what's going to work with my gains and my strength and all. It's craziness, man. My head is crazy. So different brands definitely affect me differently, and I would assume they'd affect you differently too. Certain brands might work better for certain people, and certain, I don't care what you say, man. I don't care if they're both pharmaceutical grade and they're both this and that. Certain brands just made me feel differently. So then I met my family doctor years later. I've known him now for, 4 years, whatever, 3 years, a while. I've been 4 years, let's just say, I've been injecting myself. And when I met him, he's like, we don't do the injections here at the office. And it was always a kind of a fine line for me, because I used to shoot heroin and crystal meth. So I always wanted to avoid injecting testosterone. I know one is intramuscular, one is IV. I just didn't want to be using the needles. It was like too close to I was like, I might as well let him do it for me. So when I went to the new office, I changed doctors, and I told him, I was like, listen, I would like to know, will you put me on this testosterone, 150 milligrams once a week? I wanted to lower the dose more frequently. He said, go for it. And I felt even better, man. I felt even better. None of that sleepless night stuff. None of that adrenaline junkie stuff. None of that highs and lows. I felt more normal. Then I even lowered it again. 100 milligrams I remember when I was on that 300 milligrams, they tested me at my peak. It was like a 1700, my testosterone was at 300 milligrams. I went to see an endocrinologist once. He's like, well, we want to test you not just at your trough, but also at your peak. It was at 1700. He's like, whoa. This is way too high. I was like, I'm at a 1700. I'm like, no wonder I feel that adrenaline surge. They always tested me at my family doctor at my low, where it was at the lowest point. Now this freaking endocrinologist is smart enough to say, well, we want to see your high and your low, so we want to keep it stable. 1700, he's like, that could cause heart problems, this and that. So he brought me back down to 200 every 10 days, they changed it to. So when I met my new family doctor, I was like, forget 200 every 10 days. Let's do 150 once a week. So even lowered it more frequently. Then I changed it to 100 milligrams every 5 days, which I've been on for a while now, which is by far the best dose that I've had. So I just want to say, what I've learned through all my trial and error with testosterone, from being on 300 milligrams every 2 weeks, to 200 milligrams every 2 weeks, to 200 milligrams every 10 days, to 150 milligrams once a week, to 100 milligrams every 5 days, which I'm at now, by far, I've learned that less is more. I feel the best I've ever had. I just got tested yesterday and got the results today. My low, 718, so I'm consistent, not crazy, not in the thousands. I don't know what it peaks at. I'm not messing with it. Could be a little higher, whatever, 800, I don't know. Great number, 718. I feel stable. My sex drive is great. I'm not so horny where I'm making horrible decisions. I'm horny enough to have sex anytime I want with my lady. Nothing less, nothing more. My drive, I feel amazing. I don't feel superhuman. I just feel fired up about life. I have like every positive effect of testosterone without any of the negative effects. My strength isn't insane. I'm not benching 315 or anything like that now. Maybe I could, I don't know. I don't really push it like that anymore with the weight because I don't want to injure myself. It's more important. I'm older now. I'm 36, going to be 37 this summer. I don't want to, hurt myself. Training is important. And I feel like I found the best regimen I can. 100 milligrams, the lowest I've been on, by far feels the best. And this is after years of using it. So just want to tell you, man, and a lot of it is not just the testosterone, it's my clean lifestyle, clean living, and all of it mixed together. I'm not going to lie to you and say the testosterone doesn't help. I'm sure it helps. I'm not going to lie to you and say it's just the testosterone. It's not. I'm so freaking dialed in with my food and everything. Everything goes together. So I'm always a guy who says pharmaceuticals are last. If you're going to be on pharmaceuticals, make them a last resort. Whether it's antidepressant, whatever it is, always exhaust your healthy options first. Clear it with God, with following your heart, and make pharmaceuticals last. But I certainly don't regret my decision to be on it. It's brought me back to life, and I feel great. So I just want to keep it open and keep it 100 with all you guys. That's what I got, man. Garage Gym Homie's always going to give it to you straight till the end of days. So that's how testosterone feels, man. I feel like a healthy, driven man. Just feel good. Nothing more at this point. Nothing less. No highs, no lows. Good sex drive. Good energy. I don't feel like I need to take naps all the time. I do enjoy naps, but I was having to take naps a lot more. It felt like tired a lot, and that was on a higher dose because more peaks and lows. Lower dose, more consistent, has made me feel great, man. God bless all you together. Let's get this dang muscle. I'm out.